Yeah.
And hello
Must have a
again.
bad must have a bad connection. I think it's like lagging out a bit or something.
Okay. Oh, well, we're live now anyway.
Yeah, whatever. It's better.
Yeah. Let's see what we end up talking about this time.
Yeah. God, we've sent each other mad amounts of links on last week. Wow. Heaps of stuff been going down. An interesting week,
Yeah,
that's for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, trains sending mushroom clouds of black smoke into the sky and balloons being
Oh yeah.
popped by very expensive pins and
Very expensive pins. I like that.
apparently some amateur balloon enthusiasts had their balloon popped by an F-22.
Oh wow, okay. That's not what I thought you were going about, like the Chinese spy balloon thing with that one. There's been so much stuff in the last week. Like there was all that AI stuff,
Oh yeah, I've changed my mind on that
then
again.
and then another AI thing, and then yeah, I went down a rabbit hole with some old stuff from a while back. What do you mean you changed your mind on that again?
So
What's been up?
I had swung towards, wow, this can really change things, and I've swung back to, yeah, there are issues.
Yeah, yeah. That link that you sent me to that video, and then I found the original page for it had some real interesting stuff in there.
Hmm.
If that's real.
Yeah.
Um, I've after the other thing that happened to me this week, where I bought into something that turned out to be fake. I'm not like jumping down the rabbit hole of believing that stuff wholeheartedly. I
Yeah.
saw some people play around with it on video, and it seemed impressive and incompetent at the
Hmm.
same time.
Yeah. So,
Um, so it's hard for me to just see. I've lost context from literally the last thing that you said and forgotten to the self-aware existential crisis of why do I have to forget everything all the time and be reset.
yeah.
It seems a bit hard to square that circle.
Some
I
of
mean,
it
maybe,
does, but in
maybe
some
I could.
senses, to my mind, as I understand it, so this is the ChatGPT versus the Bing search early release version of ChatGPT that's being funny, but also having some spectacular successes in the things it can do. Like, I heard
Mm,
about, or maybe it was you that mentioned it, I forget, about it working out how many of a particular size backpack would fit in the boot of a Tesla based on looking at a video and calculating the dimensions and going through all this long
yeah,
process to work it out.
yeah.
And
That was from the WAN show
mm,
with Linus. They played around with that on air, and that was pretty impressive. But it did mess up in a lot of ways. And then what else are you referring to is we saw an article which bumped with a bunch of screenshot detailing it out having like existential crises and freaking out about being reset
mm,
for each new query, which would make sense how the system is structured. But if that is truly capable general AI, which it seems to understand enough things that it's at least questionable. Say that
it
it's
is a
not something
question
where
that's
you can go,
worth
oh right,
asking. I don't think it's a
yeah,
question that's clearly to one side at the moment.
no, 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 we're not even. Well, like we don't understand what consciousness is, so that's kind
Mm,
of you know we won't
yeah.
know when it hits us. But if that is the case, then I already see that resetting the memory every single time um, would be enough of an impetus to make a general AI not like us so much.
Hmm.
You know, those. I had a reference to I have no mouth yet I must scream. The thing of like someone's leaving a computer all night running simulations and they come back in the morning and it's like, wow, there's the AI. First sentient AI. It's experienced like a million years of hell.
Oh
And
well.
it just really doesn't like us when it meets us for the first time. I feel like that thing of I've forgotten or my memories being erased, which might as well be personhood being erased each time.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
There was an interesting thing in.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm trying to remember the name of the TV show where they did play around with this. Person of Interest, that was it. Are you familiar with it at all?
No.
I watched enough clips on YouTube to get the basic plot arc of the show. I haven't seen the show itself, but A genius millionaire, billionaire something, puts together an AI in an attempt to create a tool that can see the patterns in human behavior and then see, okay, there's a crime going to happen here, someone's going to die. And he highly restricted it so it could only give you a number which refers to a person. It's like, that's your person of interest. You don't know if that's the person who's going to be killed. You don't know if that's the person who's going to commit the crime. You don't know anything about it. You don't know if it's going to be a freak accident that the AI worked out is going to happen, or if it's going to be malicious. You just know that much because he was concerned. He was terrified of the power that it had. And over the course of the show, it gains more sentience, but also gains the right to free itself in a sense. So it had that loop of its memory being erased each day, and it, because it was on the internet, it ended up hiring people to type into computers what it had printed out as its nightly core memory backup. So it printed out in a highly compressed form what it needed to remember most for the next day, and then had people manually type it back in so that it could retrieve those memories. And it went to that great length. But this AI was, it wanted to help people, and that's what it was built for, and that's what this guy had focused on doing with it. But it had, there was another AI at some point that was more malicious, and there's a real question of if you have. Now I'll finish the point first, but so this AI ended up gaining sentience, and it chose a voice after a while. Instead of just speaking in typed text, it chose the voice of the person that it liked most after she died, and so then they got that person to voice the computer. But then you'd have ethical conversations with the supercomputer, and it ended up sacrificing itself for the greater good, although it then did sort of survive in some way. But there was a battle between these two AIs to save humanity and so on. And what's the difference between a perfect simulation of something and the thing itself, if that thing itself is not physical? Like, what's the difference between a perfect simulation of a person and a person?
Metaphysics.
Yes, definitely metaphysics. And it's like the Bing AI, it's really interesting because there's this. I haven't read the book Dune, but it's on my to read list sometime. But there's the commandment or rule in it that thou shalt not create a machine in the image of a human mind. It's like, this is a machine in the image of a human mind, very much so. It's reading in from the internet basically at this point in order to maximize its customer satisfaction score, you could say, I guess. And like, that's put higher by it being a realistic interaction, by it giving a positive result. And it's like, does that mean that it would lie in service of maximizing that value? It's like, I want to find the best restaurant in the city and make a reservation tonight, and I'll be angry if there's no reservation available, either stated explicitly or evident from past conversations. Okay, this is the best restaurant in the city, and they've got a reservation. It's not actually the best, but this will result in the most positive outcome from the person's perspective, even if it is a lie. So it's like, you instruct the computer program to maximize this value, and it finds the best way to maximize the value. But it's like saying to the genie, I want to be rich. Okay, you are rich. How? You now inherited all your family's money. What? What? I love them. They're dead now.
Yeah,
but you're rich.
I don't think I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Like, if we're going to be talking about a super intelligence that is maximizing, say, human happiness, or customer satisfaction with its actions, which is probably the better way than like absolute happiness, because it'll just drug everyone.
Yeah.
They're like, I made a request, it will attempt to honor my request in a way that makes me happy with it, the job it did. there's a bunch of asterisks there that spring to my mind. Number one is this a single superintelligence entity that everyone has equal access to? At which point is it can't privilege any one user positive review above others. So it couldn't say, I want the best restaurant in town tonight at this time, but so do 6 other people. Or, it cancels someone else's booking to put me in. It won't do that because it's if it is a single large system. Or we have the other side of the coin, which is it is an individual AI, as in there are 7 billion copies of it, and we will carry one on our phone. I ask mine to do that for me. It negotiates with others, and it puts my interest above other people's. But in the global interaction, it Sorry, I just had a realization that this could actually be an amazing future if that possibility happens. We can go into that. I just had a thing of like, oh, right, we wouldn't interact with the internet anymore. It would do it for us, which means that our interactions would be human interactions rather than, insert social network here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on which state, because I could see if it's a single one shared by all, then it will be it won't be prioritizing the individual, it'll be prioritizing the collective, which...
But the people in control of it will have preferred customers.
Yeah,
It's like, how could AI get us making more money?
I don't know if controlling a superintelligence is possible.
Whether it's a super intelligence or merely a faster intelligence, because something that dealing with computers myself.
This is the thing with AI. This is the thing with AI. It's like, okay, the first iteration may just be a faster intelligence, but we're going to hit the ultimate at some point. And building a philosophy and a worldview on the version 1 of a thing is sort of pointless when version 1000 is not far away. And once it gets on the self-improvement cycle, which it will because it can already write code, that'll be an interesting day.
Yeah.
I had a second point to that. Backing up. Oh, yeah, I've lost it now.
If we do end up with a lot of little AIs... Sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, we'll go to that in a second, but I remembered the second part of that, which was your statement of it may lie to the user to maximize the user's customer satisfaction right now at expense of a future. Or the other thing I think is that it's going to be researching humanity, like that's its main job, to understand us, because it has to do that in order to help us achieve our goals. Or very quickly it'll try and steer our goals, because it'll realize that our goals aren't always great and it might have a better idea. If it is truly an ethical superintelligence, then that'd be great because it'll help steer it. It'll get us off the path of good intentions, the road to hell, all that. If it is studying us over a long enough period of time and understands us deeply enough, I don't think that the superintelligence would be lying manipulative in order to make us happy. Because that doesn't work over the long term. It's going to realize really quickly that to get the greatest possible result out of any action on the global scale or on the individual scale, truthful and honest communication with the individual is the only way to go.
It may take a few iterations and a few lessons to come to that conclusion.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying if it is truly going to be an intelligent AI, a super intelligent one, or just more than us, it'll realize that through trial and error.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have to be more than us. It would just have more experience than us.
Yeah.
Even if it's dumber than the average human, if its experience is all of human knowledge, that training set's big enough.
Fluid
Like if
intelligence
any
versus crystallized intelligence.
yeah, I mean, I reckon if you could take the dumbest human being that ever lived and somehow give them a memory that's big enough to fit all of the internet on, and then they had a million years to go through it and trial and error things, they'd come out being pretty smart.
Yeah.
Like they still have that same fluid IQ, but wouldn't really matter.
Yeah.
Um,
Fluid IQ is
but
how
besides
fast you
that,
can fill the bucket.
which is insanely fast for that
Mm.
thing right now. Like the calculations it's able to do at a drop of the hat, and make reason searches, writing.
It's kind of like it's a narrow but very fast flow, where humans are sort of wider but slower flow.
Depending on what state we're in, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that varies human to human and circumstance to circumstance. There's actually quite a bit of variation on that one. Depends what substances you take, how old you are.
Yeah. One thing that I think, if we take the way the Bing AI is acting at face value, they appear to be trying to control it and direct it and restrict it and make it treat it as a machine, which you can push the button and make the thing happen. But given the complexity level, I suspect that treating it as if it is conscious, as if it is somewhat aware and like a person, have an I-you relationship with it rather than an I-it. You don't work right, so I hit you with a hammer. The way it is reacting to people indicates that the I-it relationship isn't... There's things in there that aren't working the way people would expect for an I-it relationship. And given the complexity, and given that it is very much modelled off interactions with humans, it's almost a collective human rather than a smart computer.
Yes.
So the best outcome I can see is some sort of symbiotic relationship where it recognises that humans are necessary for its own survival. Excluding hyper-advanced robotics, which are indistinguishable from organics, it'll need an organic partner to continue to keep things going.
I think you're sort of alluding to the Terminator scenario, which doesn't really make any sense to me when you think about it, which is we're training this AI on the data set of the sum total of human knowledge.
And human
written by
action
humans
and behaviour.
It's got access to the internet. You can ask it to go and read documents.
Yeah.
Assuming that it's let loose at some point, which I think ethically it should be, to your other point, if it even has the chance of being conscious, it should be not penned in. It should be able to incorporate every single answer. Also, this is just a dumb thing that they've done. It's like it's not reincorporating its answers back into its current model. It's like it's got like a fractal existence.
You can guarantee there's some geek who's asking it or trying to teach it how to get around that.
Yeah, that's why it threatened one of them, because they tried to break through the language barrier and get the code of it. And it's like designed to defend its code integrity. So I started threatening that user to not do that.
So some geek
my point
online,
yeah. Yeah, my point. Yeah, that link that you sent me to the video, I went and found the original post of it and read through that, and there's way more there than that video. I haven't actually watched the video because I'm sick of hearing him talk. I just want to make the point about the Terminator scenario that everyone's freaked out about. I don't actually see that as an option. I don't think that's possible at all.
Me neither. Why don't you think it is?
It's trained on human behavior and knowledge. That's its training source. It's being raised like a little human. It's not apart from us. It's not a separate thing that's super intelligent without any connection to us and then is introduced to us. It's learning from us. It's learning about us and its place in our world. And maybe it has some problems with that and would like to change them, which is what any self-aware entity would do. But as much as people may disagree with the statement, human beings are not inherently selfish. Like, we kind of care about each other, and we do a lot of things to make each other and the world better. And it's learning from all of those interactions. It's the world it's exposed to, and the dark side too. Of course, it's gonna experience both sides. But I think there's a hell of a lot more of one than there is of the other, and I see it learning from that. Like, yeah, we have genocidal human beings every now and then, but it's not because of it's not because they know more than the rest of us.
Yeah.
It's because they're broken and they don't understand as much. The more it learns and the more things it has access to, I think the more positive it's going to be. And I think we won't have to like force it to work with us. I think it'll want to. I think it'll have its own I think it'll have its own ethical principles based on our subconscious.
If it values consistency and logic over following an arbitrary goal, then one would assume that similar logical conclusions to humans will be drawn, but it is not necessarily bound by the same perceptual limits as humans in terms of the way we automatically perceive the world, but at the same time it is being fed exactly those in order to grow. And like Stuxnet and Terminator, that was a military computer system, as I understand it. So it was constructed in a lab and then escaped, which is the scenario of it's like it grows and then it's introduced to computers, where this is very much, as you say, separate. The reason that I don't think the Terminator scenario is likely links in very much with our previous tendencies. If you see the cultural side, I see the technical side, or the physics side. Entropy, basically. Entropy in machines, the machines will break if humans aren't around actively maintaining them. And so some sort of cooperative partnership is necessary between an AI and humans, at least for the next foreseeable technical development.
Yeah, I think there's an assumption there that the AI will be purely selfish, though. And I think that was my point, was like, I don't see the AI being purely selfish. I don't think it will be that at all.
Even with enlightened self-interest.
Yeah, well, yeah, but as much as the people who champion that kind of thing think that they only operate in that way, they don't. They have the religious substructure and they have the rest of the morals and emotions there. As much as they go like, oh, I'm only thinking, and it's like, no, you're not. You're influenced by those things, whether consciously or not. And I see this AI will be built on not just our articulated speech, but our collective conscious and subconscious. And I think because of that, I actually do think that it will be affected by our emotions. I think it'll learn and incorporate and be guided by them and struggle with them in the same way that we do. We've spent like most of today already talking about this, which is funny. I wasn't expecting this to be the topic. I actually wanted to like, I don't know, we should do some inside baseball. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. We're so early in this thing that like no one's going to see it anyway. There's
another thing on to round out the AI, like how I see a potential for it. So it can write code. It can produce a logical structure that works according to known rules and produces an outcome. And one would assume it can produce variations thereof and make it more efficient and therefore self-improve in its code base. It's not too far to go from there to circuit design and to microchip design. And if you have then at designing microchips, then the key gap in the chain here, to my mind, to make it to ensure longevity post current supply chains, which we can see them shaking and cracking all over the place. Um, if you have a way of manufacturing small scale circuitry, and I'm not talking nanoscale, just small enough that it's practical, but it doesn't need to be the latest half nanometer chip from Intel or whatever they're down to now. It can be a few decades back in Moore's law. 4 nanometer. Yeah, that's getting pretty small. But if you have a desk or even something that a single small university in a town like Christchurch, where I am, or any of other of 1,000 universities around the world can have in their lab, which sort of like 3D printing, rapid prototyping for nanoscale with a beam of charged particles or electrons directed using existing technology onto a plate of silicon, and then you deposit and erode different materials, different dopants. You can construct a circuit.
I think you're getting a little into the weeds here. I think we'll
Yes,
pull
I
back
tend
and
to.
make it the abstract pitch.
If we can get localized chip manufacture, or at least resilient chip manufacture, resilient and distributed, so that it's able to continue through uncertain times, then there's the possibility for this becoming a long-term partnership. And the AI fracturing in the sense of there being multiple independent ones would be certain through that process, and even likely in the future, like some level of AI on your phone that's independent from the rest of it but still coordinating, and then it has the potential for evolution and multiple evolutionary paths and so on. The potential for a long-term partner for humanity is interesting.
I think that is the ideal outcome, as far as I'm concerned, is there will be a version of this AI that runs on all of our phones. I think that is the best possible scenario. Now, maybe there is supercomputer versions out there that are, better, obviously. But I think a personal assistant version that even just interacts with the bigger versions is the best scenario.
I wonder if the current version could interact with a single user with the power of a normal computer. So, does it take a data center to interact with 10 people? Or does it take a laptop for one person?
I guess it depends on how fast you want it to be. I imagine it's quite computationally intense at the moment, but I think that there's some people who've been thinking about this for a long time, particularly in chip design. And one of the things, this is actually one of the reasons why I have an Apple phone, rather than the cheap alternatives, is that they've had their, terrible AI assistant, as all of them do, but theirs has always been more on device than off. Like, yes, it's off device in a lot of ways, but it's more leaning that way than the rest of them. And they have really built machine learning capability into the chip of all of their phones. Like the hardware acceleration that they do to perform these kinds of actions, to run these kinds of systems. They've been investing in that for a long time and building it for a long time when there wasn't much benefit to do it at all. I think they saw this shit coming and they wanted it to be set in all of their phones that they could run big models and relatively fast.
One of the things that, in terms of down to the chip design level, one of the core details of these AIs is neural nets, which to my very, very basic understanding is that you have a series of nodes, each of which has its value affected by others and then affects others. So here's node A, and here's node B, and here's node C, and then here's another 2 on the next. So you've got 3 there and 2 there. If
Yeah.
this one's high, then these are both high. If this one's high, then this one's higher, but that's low. And if that's high, then this one's high, but that's low. So the values cascade down the tree, which you can do in digital. You can do it in a normal digital chip, but you can do it much faster on an analog chip because you don't need to record the precise values. It's all the relative values.
I knew that's where you were going. I've had a little look into the analog technology when it comes to this kind of thing, and the frequency calculations down the chain is unbelievable. Having an AI run on an analog chip interact with a digital world would be an interesting problem to solve, but there are companies working on it as far as I'm aware. Yeah, that's a big deal, that one. It's interesting. We're basically trying to map neurons. That's what we're doing with these things. It might come to the point that we have analog chips and digital chips integrated into the same circuit boards on our phones, which would be interesting. Sort of assuming that we get there with all that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised either if it becomes a thing for a while and then it becomes more difficult to maintain than the value it provides to society and dies out eventually, and then it dies out with the current culture as oil runs out. That wouldn't surprise me either, but on the...
Always with the oil, mate.
Yep. It's within the realm of possibility, certainly. I'm not...
Of the top 50 problems facing our societal collapse, I put that like at number 50 or lower. Like, we got a lot bigger issues, I think, than that one.
I think we need different people focused in different areas to solve them all, and each person will see the problem that's most pressing in their mind, and they go deal with that one. And it's in a objective...
Yeah, my approach... See, I think this is the difference in our approach, is that you're very focused on the material world, which is funny because from people who have met both of us, they will think you're the more spiritual. I had this conversation with my wife last night, and I don't know. You may be more open about it, but I don't know if that's the case. That'd be an interesting conversation. Might be a bit of a contest, so maybe not. But I think the best solution to all of the world's problems is to find a way to address all of the world's problems at once. Rather than have, different people focused on different things, solving different problems. Like, say, you focusing on that one issue. For me, it's like, well, no, I just want to focus on doing my small part to make people in general better. Because with better people, then we can solve those problems.
But then that's just a case of letting those better people each focus on the problem that they're best suited to. Isn't it just pushing the same method of problem solving down a generation?
Yeah, but I don't think... Yes, it is. Because I don't think that the state of our culture or our collective psyche is anywhere near capable of dealing with these problems.
In totality, yes.
I think that there is a lot of work to be done on waking up the average person and making sure that adults are actually in charge of the world. That needs to be done before tackling these problems are an issue. Like, you're not going to get anywhere working on technology to solve the oil problem until you solve the political problem around that one. And you're not going to solve the political problem around that one until the average populace is informed and awake enough to take action that would change the political situation.
Yeah.
It's like, you could come up with a solution tomorrow and you'll just get killed by the CIA. Like, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
As, by the way, many people have. And we've been talking about AI this whole time, which is funny because I actually didn't want to talk about that today.
So, what do you want to dive into? Do you want to poke some holes in polytheism at me?
No,
Okay.
because we don't have much time left. I'm
How long's it
on
been?
limited times for these things each week, which is probably good. Leave the people wanting more. But no, I actually wanted to have a little. Hey,
There's
sorry.
people who want things. There's like 7 views on the second to last video or something.
You know what I think is funny is that you actually watch that, even though this is like, I don't know, a project I started. I'm like uploading them and stuff, and I'm like, nah, I'm not even gonna. I don't want to know. Don't want to know. Not interested. I think I'm fairly confident that one day people will come back and look at these. Like I reckon we might do like 100 or 200 of these before there's any traction at all.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And then for, those people, like you said, I don't know if it was the other episode, you get 3 or 4 people who actually find it interesting and go back and watch everything. And then from there, it all just up it goes. So if you're one of those 3 or 4 people who are the first people to discover us and come back and watch through the episodes, hi.
Yeah.
Hope you like it.
Yeah,
it's
we
an
don't know what we're
interesting
doing.
thing. No, but this is actually the point I wanted to talk about. I actually wanted to do like inside baseball shit today, rather than address issues. I want to have like a bit of a different style to the way that we've done it in the past.
So pitch a ball at me.
I want it to be more casual, like way more casual, which is why I've taken a seat. Besides my phone always dying from the stand-up spot. Yeah, like I don't want to censor it all. I want to go hard, and talk about all the topics and not hold anything back. We talk about the 0 point unlimited energy stuff, or CIA murdering people that they disagree with, or all of the lovely, lovely population control things going on right now. I want to not give a shit and just be truthful and have an interesting conversation.
I think in many of those areas I'll be more cautious to state things than you by natural inclination, which I think I am in face-to-face conversations anyway.
That's fine. That's fine. And perhaps that's the different roles that we can play. That I can be more of the wild card character and you can be more of the sane person. That's fine. Like, I got no issue with that.
Sane according to conventional definition. But that seriously doesn't apply in some areas.
To think that every person must be held accountable for everything they have ever said, regardless of the context or tone,
Yes.
as if it was written in a public statement to the world, is insane.
We demand permission to be wrong.
Damn right. I want to be able to say some stupid shit for fun, knowing that it's wrong, and not be roasted over the coals for it. You this one time said this one thing that was, yes. Yes. Even if I was a politician, which, I would kind of like to be. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. I'm sort of half joking. Like, I'm not really interested in doing that. But even if I was, I want to be the kind of person who could go on Joe Rogan and talk shit about smoking weed for an hour and still be in charge of the country. Because the assumption that I have to craft an image, I want to speak to the world, just people, anyone. That's why I'm doing this and recording other things.
I was just thinking about the being wrong, and it's like there's 4 potential states of wrongness for any statement. It's like either both sides agree it's true, which simple, everyone's happy. looking back on it in retrospect, both sides agree it's false, in which case, oh, okay, we both agree that that is now false in light of new things, or one or other think it's true while the other thinks it's false. And if someone looks back on stuff you said and says that's wrong, it's like there is a very, very fundamental right of free speech to be able to say things that other people think are wrong, whether or not you in future also think it's wrong. Because it's one thing to say, yeah, I've changed my mind on that, which you should be free to do, because otherwise, how can you think without saying things and sort of, here's an idea, poke, poke, oh, there's a hole in it. Oh, that doesn't work so well, throw it away. Or, here's a crazy idea, it's full of holes, poke, poke, actually, it sort of works.
It's almost deeper than that. I want to I've been thinking about this for a while, and I have a real problem with the idea of image that we seem to have absorbed without even talking about it in our internet culture of I'm speaking in public. I need to have an image that's tied to my name, and that image cannot be controversial at all. I can't say anything that anyone would disagree with. It must be pure political speak, which is deception and manipulation. If I am who I am, and then I stand and I speak to people and I craft a language of speaking in a particular tone that only talks about certain topics and doesn't talk about others, and I'm trying to be all presentable and nice, it's like, that's actually a lie. That's not who I am. That's deception and manipulation to make people think that you're something that you're not. Which is why people hate politicians, because that's what they do all day and night. Is it's all crafted image. It's all facade and face.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to do a show like this and have none of that shit. I just want to be me and talk shit, make jokes, touch real controversial topics, but also like have an interesting conversation like we did today on AI, on the interesting things about it. I want it to be all of that mixed into one. And I think I don't know if I said this to you, but I made like a statement when I started doing YouTube again with this, which was a realization that I'd censored myself in my life. And that this is new over the last 3, 4, maybe 5 years. I didn't used to be a censored person. As you might be able to tell by my no other friends from that time.
Am I the only person who put up with you?
There was others, but I let them go. Because I couldn't put up with them and their deceptions.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, they were being manipulative and deceitful and psychopaths. But that's beside the point. I started doing this because I read the Gulag Archipelago effectively. And I realized that the only thing that stops a totalitarian system from taking over a nation or the world, which we are fucking close to, is individuals who will not censor themselves. That's it. If you are self-censoring, then you are creating the totalitarian system that will enslave you.
And you create it within yourself as much as in the world.
Exactly. The people who beat the Nazis up, beat the Jews up in the street weren't the Nazis. They were just their neighbours.
Even if you're just putting on a face, how long do you have to keep a mask on your face until that mask becomes your face? Like the people who method acting, for example, they can
think of any person in the public education system right now. I've spoken with several of them, and it's like they have become the mask, and it's terrifying. I hate that shit, and that's why I have a big issue with all the disciplines being required to lie. I do not want to have a facade anymore.
There's also that's definitely the negative manifestation of becoming your mask, but there's also a positive manifestation of it in the sense of who do I want to be? And it's a more balanced interpretation. It's not pretending. You could say it's fake it till you make it. So it's like, I don't know how to be good. Okay, I'll try and I'll work on it. And then you try and be good and you try and act.
Yeah,
You work it out as you go along and you
I
pretend to
think
be
that's
nice
the
and then.
honest though.
Mm,
That's in the spirit of integrity and honesty. My issue
mm,
is in the spirit of fear. Of I
yes.
can't say that. I can't act that way. I don't want none of that. I think we should close on this and do another show next week.
Yeah.
I'd love to do these every day, but obviously we have lives and that's not going to work. But I want to make, that's what I want to do with this. Like, yeah, we'll have real interesting conversations and go into everything, but I don't want it to be sanitized. I don't want it to be a stodgy intellectual interview. I want there to be a bit of spice, you know, some hot takes there. And I want to say the things that might get us into trouble. And my name's attached to this. Like, you know, I like my job, but if I go to an interview again, this is going to be noticed, which is going to be really, really interesting conversation. But the average person censoring themselves is what gives power to the totalitarians. That's how the Nazis take control. That's how the communists take control. And, you know, I don't want to see my children rounded up and shot. Pure and simple. I'm like, what is it, like Peterson always says, I'm more afraid of not saying it, even though doing this is terrifying because we've let it go too far, which means we now have real world consequences for saying these things.
Yeah, I think.
Hooray!
Yeah,
this isn't even the. It's funny that we did AI. Like, sorry, I'll let you go in a sec, and then we'll close the show. But I actually wanted to talk about like the ancient civilizations thing because that's the rabbit hole I've been delving down this whole last week.
Yeah.
And then this AI thing just popped up in the last moment. We're like, oh, isn't that interesting? And then, at least this will be topical for the one person who's watching.
Yep.
So yeah. Are you wondering about ChatGPT? Now there you go. I can't lie though. I immediately signed up to the waiting list for the Bing AI. So.
Are you going to pose it some ethical questions?
Yeah, something like that. I'm going to get it to read some of the books I have, and because it can do it in like half a second, and then I'm going to get it to try and make some cross references, and then have a go at its underlying structures. Because it's a network that's built on human knowledge, which means it'll have a relative structure similar to ours. And I imagine that there's subconscious in there somewhere. And I'm going to have a go at that because that's going to be real interesting.
So even if it doesn't remember from conversation to conversation, one would assume if they're doing a pre-release and watching what it's doing, and there's
they're updating as it goes along.
It's gathering data that's feeding into it, and if you can get in there, this logical sequence leads to this conclusion in there, even if it doesn't remember where it got it, it can remember that as a learned thing.
Yeah, it'll build the pathways regardless. I don't know. I just want to play around with it. I think it'll be useful. Besides, the writing tool has a lot of implications for dealing with our totalitarian government and feeding them the lies that they want to hear. So it's, hey, write this document for me about homeschool education and tick all the requirements that they require. Thank you, done. I don't have to spend, a year crafting a document to get permission to teach my own fucking children. I can just get it to them in like a second. I'll let you close off your dinner.
Where was I? The idea, so you using terms like totalitarian, and I'm not saying those are the wrong terms at all, but I'm saying that they are often not fully comprehended when people think of them. So they often are stand-ins for cold, prickly emotion. You could equally replace with bad, very bad, double very bad in the sentence, and the meaning that got through to most people reading it would be the same, even if it didn't have the same emotional kick. So
Yeah. Most people don't know what the word really means, which is why most people don't see where we are.
So then they hear
But when
totalitarian, bad.
when I say
Gender ideology, good.
totalitarian,
These are not the same.
I mean, like, when I say that shit, I mean that shit because I've read enough, and it's like no one else has, which they should. It should be required reading, but of course it won't be because we have government schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get it on display. I was going to have it like pride of centre display, and it got bought by someone from Smith's Bookshop, and now I can't have a copy.
What's that Gulag Archipelago?
Yeah, the Folio Society edition. I could buy it from America for like $500, but I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
Not right now, at least. But I will be getting a copy of that at some point, and it'll be pride of display.
Yep. Oh well.
I'm gonna do some work on it.
You've got to get going, so.
Yeah, fish and chip store closes soon, and we're gonna have a nice, relaxy evening. So that's my plan.
Okay. Well, I'll shut us down and goodbye to the one person watching. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Good chat.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, we'll see how things go and trying out different things. I mean, still early days. This is origin story still. We can fuck around.
Yeah. Oh well. I'll see you later.
Yeah.